There's another one you don't want to hear. Well, actually, either do I.
1, 2, 3, set, go!
All right now on the Power Chord Hour, I'm very excited for this one. We're talking to Dramarama frontman John Easdale, and John and the band released their first record in 15 years last year. It is called Color TV, and they have a bunch of different stuff with their music right now. On top of that, the Dramarama catalog just got put up on streaming services like Spotify, and I think just about everywhere else you stream stuff. And on top of that, if you're more of a vinyl person, we got Color TV and the band's debut, Cinema Verte, both got vinyl pressing. So tons and tons of music, new and old, coming from the Dramarama camp. So we're going to talk all about that right now with John. John, how are you, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. I've been looking forward to this. I've been enjoying. I keep calling it new, and it is new, but I guess it has been out about a year now. But Color TV, excellent new record, and like I mentioned, it's been 15 years. And when initially, like, did you guys start thinking, like, not even recording, but like, when did the idea even start brewing that it's like, all right, time to do another Dramarama record? When did this all get started for you guys?
Well, honestly, some of these songs have been around for quite a while, and some of them predate the last album.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wrote a couple of the songs, particularly the ones that deal with substance abuse, back when I was just getting out of rehab. But they didn't really fit on the last couple of records that I put out, and I think it was a little too close to the actuality of it, you know, to when I was experiencing, and I needed to get away from it, you know, put some distance between me and it. And
that makes sense. I mean, that seems like a heavy time and a heavy topic and everything. I could totally see where maybe at the time that would take a while to be like, well, maybe I'm not ready to like set this into the world.
Yeah, and you don't really want to be preachy or anything, you know. Not that any of the songs are preachy, but you know what I mean. You don't want to be like poster boy for sobriety.
Yeah,
it's not something, you know, and it's still not my goal or purpose. You know, it's just it works for me, but I wouldn't want to be that, you know.
Yeah,
that guy, you know.
Yeah. So those ones you said, then you wrote a few of those, like predating, because 15 years. So some of these are pretty old. Or you know, I mean, now have you been playing them live since then, or I mean, have any of these? I do know a few of these.
Some of them, yeah, a couple of them for sure.
So they were like live cuts and stuff. I mean, like in that time then, so I mean, it sounds like for a while you've been thinking of doing the record. I mean, was there ever a time in between the 15 years where you didn't really see another Dramarama record happening? Was there ever a point where you're like, oh, maybe we're not doing another one?
No. We actually started recording, I want to say, after the Zeros, sometime, you know, maybe 5 or 6 years after the last album.
Oh, okay.
Came out, but it's taken a while to put it all together. And also the studio where we were lucky enough to record is called The Village. It's in West Los Angeles, and it's one of the greatest studios in the world. It's definitely, you know, everyone from Bob Dylan and the Stones and Elton John and Barbra Streisand. It's where Fleetwood Mac recorded. I know they recorded Tusk. I'm not sure if Rumors was there, but I mean, wow. Everybody from the 70s to now, you know, more recent, you know,
historic recording studio. It sounds like.
Yeah, it's one of the best facilities and one of the last of the old-fashioned ones, you know.
That's awesome.
They just shut down Capitol Record Studios, recording studios in the basement of the Capitol building, and
oh man,
yeah, there's only a few rooms like it, or actually it has several rooms, but it's giant old building.
Oh, that's cool, and I didn't realize about the Capitol studio closing down.
Yeah, they just shut it down within the last few months, I want to say.
Were you ever able? Had you ever gotten to step foot in there?
Yeah, I produced an album by a band called Greta. I co-produced it, and we did some work there back in the '90s.
Oh, that's all. I've never been in the building, but that is one of the neatest. I had to go see it with my own two eyes, so that's pretty cool. You got to produce in there, and you're right. Yeah, you don't seem like a lot of those old classic studios don't seem. They seem to be going the wayside a lot of times. I also feel like some of that. I don't know if new studios are taking place. I don't know if that's also being able to record at home or what, but it's kind of sad to see that.
I think the technology has taken away a lot of the business
It would make
of
sense. I think a guest that I've had on here, and I would say at this point it's the norm to talk to someone, and when you ask them where this was recorded, like where their album was recorded, you get like bedroom or things like that. Like you do start getting and things you would never expect either. So yeah, I think you're right on that. I'm thinking home recording and
yeah,
all that.
you used to have a great big old tape recording machine and a giant board and stuff, but the technology and the digital technology is such that you can get it all, on your Mac, or yeah, you can do it all at home. Yeah, and it's not, it doesn't require the same kind of cash outlay to build a studio and all of that.
Do you,
And there's no loss in quality. You know the the quality of what you can do at home is very, very close. Of course, you don't get the same experience, but it's not necessary.
That was actually my question for you. I was going to ask next, like, if you had a preference, because it's like, I feel like, yes, it's cool to be able to, do all that at your house, but there is also something magical about being in a studio and being in that environment that I think sometimes you forget. Like, sometimes that is a part of it as well, I feel like.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm very, old fashioned. We started doing this in 1979. We went in the studio, I think, for the first time, 1979, 1980.
Oh, wow.
And when we started making recordings, and our first album didn't come out till '85, but we were fooling around before that. And yeah, we always went to studios. The first ones were in basements and, dumpy little recording studios. But even then, you had to have, a recording machine, a tape recorder that cost, 10, 20, $30,000 or something. They were big old things, big as big as a room.
Yeah, and then the talent too, like to be able to go and then you're doing all analog and be able to just like cut tape and do all this like different stuff with the analog and the reel to reel, and like I love talking about a lot of that old stuff because it's like that in itself I feel like was something like you couldn't just pick it up like you can now. Like that was stuff you had to like work on to even be able to
Yeah,
figure
no,
out
you
some
had
of
to.
it.
Yeah, you needed an engineer, and there were a lot of things, a lot of bells and whistles, and a lot of devices that you needed to know how to do stuff. And it's a lot easier now.
On the new record, was this did you guys work with a producer? Was this one self-produced?
We worked with a very dear friend of mine, Jeff Greenberg, who's been helping us out for many years. He actually owns the Village, and so
Oh,
he was
nice.
able to get us in there, on nights and weekends when Elton John wasn't busy recording, or whoever. T-Bone Burnett does a lot of his work there, and yeah, there's a lot of guys who go in and out of there, and they pay top dollar because it is one of the, like I've said it before, it's just one of the best studios in the world. And so we were really fortunate to be able to work there, but it took a lot longer as a result. And also we kind of tinkered with it and fiddled with it, and yeah, it sounds a lot better as a result.
And how does the like generally? I'm sure it changes from time to time with different songs. But I mean, songwriting process. How does that normally work in Dramarama? Will you like bring something to the other guys? Do you all kind of work on it together? How's a song like normally get started?
No, it's my I'm the brainchild, or yeah, I'm the mastermind, whatever you want to call it.
Nice, nice.
I'm the auteur. I I do all the work, and well, not all the work, but creatively, I'm the songwriter. and the rest of the guys are very important parts of the sound. And the two guitar players have been with me since we grew up together. We all graduated high school together, and the one guitar player, Marky, he's been with me since we grew up on the same block. I've known him since I was 3 years old.
That's amazing. I mean, and I was going to bring that up too. I had a question later, kind of going to, but like another thing, like a huge part of your band, I think, like considering how long you guys have been together, the fact that you've been able to like keep a lineup like that, and that you are majority original members. Like, I don't feel like there's a lot of bands who came up around your time, if they're still around, that can even say that. Like, that's quite impressive that you guys have kind of kept that a pretty consistent lineup, I'd say, over the years.
Yeah, no, we've had dozens of different drummers, but we've had the same drummer now for 20, 25 years or something.
Oh, well, that's the other thing. That's quite a while too. He may not be original, but it's like that's a long time to be in the band. Yeah,
and we've had two bass players, and our one bass player, he stopped playing with us in 1990. Yeah, in the 90s when we took a break back in the day, and I've been playing with the current bass player Mike Davis since 95, 96, something like that.
Oh wow! So yeah, this lineup. Then.
Everybody's been with us for 20, 25 years. The new guys have been with us for 20, 25 years.
I like that, the new guys. But yeah. Going back to songwriting for a minute, I mean, I think one of the distinctive things about Dramarama, I think one of the biggest ones is your lyrics. I think you really do have a style that I feel like you can listen to and go like, oh, those are John Easdale lyrics. Like you have your own style. Who would you say were like some of your lyrical influences? Who would you kind of credit for your songwriting a little bit?
I love David Bowie and Ian Hunter from Mott the Hoople a great deal. I think those had a lot to do with inspiring me to become a songwriter. Mm-hmm. But I also grew up listening to the Beatles and the Stones and all of that. The Who and the Kinks and all the classic British bands. I at the same time, I don't try to really, emulate anybody else. It's just, me, and try not to insult anybody's intelligence with the words.
I like that, but and that is that the names you brought up, those all kind of make sense too. I mean, there's definitely a pop sensibility, and you're pretty good with melody with those. I wanted to talk next. Dramarama obviously starting in New Jersey, and then you guys ended up in L.A. When you guys made that transition over and start playing in LA more and stuff, I mean, what was the scene like at that time? Were they welcoming to like bands who started in other places and came in? Or, I mean, was there contention at all from bands who started in LA versus ones who would come in later? I mean, was that ever an issue?
We kind of bypassed the whole, trying to make it. We didn't come to Los Angeles to try to make it. Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, I don't think we ever were trying to quote unquote make it, and get famous. Where we grew up in the New York metropolitan area, there were a lot of cool bands, but none of them were getting played on the radio or anything. At the time, all the great, pop, punk, new wave bands from New York, whether it was Patti Smith or the Ramones or even Talking Heads, they weren't on the radio that much. I think Blondie was the exception, and then Talking Heads came along and they started getting a little bit of airplay. But even in New York City, not really. It wasn't. We weren't expecting to get on the radio, and we weren't expecting to get on MTV. Commercial rock radio, at least where we were living, wasn't going to be playing our kind of music. But there was a radio station in Los Angeles that started playing our record, and then the song became like very popular and was put into heavy rotation, as they say. And we came out, and we were already on the radio. We didn't have to compete, and I think maybe there might have been some resentment from the local bands but I think the thing with Los Angeles is that there's a lot of people from all over the world that come here. It's kind of like actors going to Broadway, in New York City. You know, they come from all over the country, you know, all over the world, and they end up in New York, and I think bands come from all over the world and end up in Hollywood.
That's true.
So in that sense, yeah, we kind of cheated, and we did, you know, and really we weren't. I don't think we were prepared for what we encountered when we came here, but we've grown into it, you know.
And you know, then I'd like to go back for a second too. I mean, starting like how many years was Dramarama? I know you guys lived in New Jersey, but like how long was the band in New Jersey before moving over there? Like how long were you there?
Well, yeah, we grew up there. I was 25 when I moved to Los Angeles, but the band had gotten together. We'd started in the studio. Myself, Mark, the guitar player, and the bass player, and I actually played drums. And we started in the basement, and we started doing our recordings, and then we started going in the studio with just the three of us. And then when it came time to start playing live, and you know, actually named the band Dramarama, that was around 1982. And so we moved out here in 86. We put our album out in 85. So it took us like 4 years, maybe 4 or 5 years at the most, before we had our album out and we were in Los Angeles.
Now, were you playing out much at all before the first album came out, or was that like after the first record did you start playing shows?
We had played a little bit, but not nearly enough, I would say. I think we could have used more time honing our live presentation than we had. We'd spent way more time in the studio than we had on stage.
Yeah, that well, I'm sure now too with all these years you guys have gotten much tighter. But yeah, I could see where that being in the studio, which you sound great, the studio sounds good, but yeah, that it's time to do it live. It's like, oh yeah, we might be a little rusty on this. So then you were mostly
we were very green.
Then were you part much of then the New Jersey music scene, or by that point did you get to like be part of the local scene it much? Or I mean, it kind of sounds like you said you weren't playing much while you were in New Jersey.
We played you know, the clubs that were available for us to play. You know, original music wasn't, you know, the thing in New Jersey. There were a couple of nightclubs where you could play. There was club called the Dirt Club, which was really like kind of like New Jersey's version of CBGB's, and
nice.
The Smithereens played there too. But yeah, no, we weren't really part of any kind of a scene.
No. Did you guys ever in your career get to, while it was still open, ever play CBGB's?
Yes, we did. But
nice.
It wasn't until I want to say the 90s.
Oh, wow. Now, I mean, were you going to shows that I know Wayne's very close to New York City. I mean, did you go to shows at CBGB's growing up?
You know, I never did.
No.
I did a lot of shopping in New York. Like I went to record stores, but I didn't start going to concerts in New York until later on. And by that time, I don't think CBGB's really had that many great bands. You know, it was living off of its reputation rather than having all the great bands play there anymore.
I see what you're saying. Going back to the new record, I want to say, I mean, keeping up the tradition. You guys are always good for a couple really good covers. And on this new one, you got a Bob Dylan cover, an Elliott Smith cover. And I mean, I wanted to ask you, I mean, is there much of an approach at all when you guys like choose cover songs? Because I always feel like you pick songs that fit with like the flow of the record. They're not just like randomly picked. So like, I feel like there has to be some kind of approach. Like, do you guys, and also on top of that, I mean, when approaching a cover, I mean, do you try making it your own? Do you try to keep to the original? Like, you know, what kind of thought goes into that? Because you guys, like I said, I mean, always good. Lots of excellent covers throughout the years.
Well, we don't change them that much, but we try to find songs by bands that are, you know, reasonably well known, but at the same time, not the most obvious song by that band. You know, we did a song by the Rolling Stones called "Memo from Turner," which is really not. It's on a. There's like a demo version, and then there's a solo Mick Jagger version on a soundtrack to a movie, but it's not.
It's obscure.
Yeah, we try to pick the less well-known songs by pretty well-known bands. When we started out, we actually, it was kind of calculating in the fact that we did, a David Bowie song, for instance, on our first album, because we as music fans and really, geeks, the word wasn't in use at the time, but, just total, music nerds and big Bowie fans. We knew other bands, when another band did a David Bowie song, we knew about it, and we would check it out. So we thought it was a way for people to, hey, maybe this band might be good. They do a David Bowie song, or they do a Lou Reed song or whatever. So at the very beginning, we were trying to get noticed by doing other people's songs and, maybe have a little bit of that rub off on us. And as the years have gone by, I think, yeah, like you said, it's a matter of picking songs that fit with the flow and the feeling of the record. And and I don't think we try to change them that much. We try to stick with the spirit of the originals.
Yeah, I think you guys, honestly, I think it was listen maybe 2 or 3 that I even realized that Abandoned Love was that you were doing a Bob Dylan song, because again, it fits, everything about it kind of fits with the flow of the record. So sometimes I feel like a band will throw a cover on us on an album and it just breaks up the sequencing and the flow and everything, whereas no, you guys pick pretty solid ones that I feel like normally fit with whatever the mood of the record, or whatever is. But
absolutely. And again, Bob Dylan has a lot of great songs, but that's not one of his more well-known songs.
I think you're better off doing that too, because the other thing is people, if they know right away, if right away you start doing, I don't know, Tangled Up in Blue or something, they're going to start judging it by the original. I feel like if you do a more well-known one right away, you're going to get that, where I think it's kind of better where, me, listening to it once or twice before I even caught on that it was a Dylan song, I'm just like, wow, that's a really good song. So you kind of don't have those preconceived notions. I feel like if you did, yeah, a more one where the second, you start playing, I'm 30 seconds, I'm like, oh yeah, that it's that song,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, thank you.
But going on, like I said, the new vinyl treatment, which is awesome to see, just got color TV. Well, it has been out about a year now. First vinyl pressing, and then Cinema Verte, I think first pressing in quite a while, right? I mean, is this the first one since the 80s, or has it been pressed since its original run?
I think they stopped making vinyl at some point in the very late 80s, early 90s. I'm not sure when the last vinyl pressing of Cinema Verte was. It might have been the 80s. I don't remember when we got signed to a record label and they licensed our catalog. The ones that I know that came out on cassette and it came out on CD, but I don't know if it came out on vinyl again.
Yeah, the later era stuff definitely never saw vinyl right then. The 90s, any records you put out in the 90s probably didn't really get vinyl.
No, by 91 we named an album vinyl.
That's right,
because there was no more vinyl.
Oh, that's why you named it that.
They wouldn't let us put it out on vinyl. And yeah, we were lamenting the passing of an era.
Yeah, and what's weird about that too? I feel like we're at a time now. And this might be weird for you, just seeing all of these changes, but the fact that even right now we're talking about how you're putting these 2 records on vinyl while at the same time putting them up on streaming services. It is kind of weird, the era we live in right now, the duality of it, where one is it's just digital, there's nothing there, and then another, it's we're bringing back this format, which sells really well. I collect vinyl myself, but people are then going, and it's something that's even less convenient than, say, an 8-track in portability and stuff. And it's insane to see, kind of the duality of that we've went back to records, did that surprise you when you saw that there was even demand for color TV and all that on vinyl? Because I even think back, your last record, no one cared about vinyl in 2005. So, I'm sure there's no demand for it on that one either.
Well, it's a lot different now. You could argue that the quality and all of that, it just sounds better on vinyl, and a lot of people will have that argument. And I grew up, buying records, so I love the idea of the big 12-inch album cover and, reading it and looking at it and taking it out and putting it on. There's something of the ritual of that I really enjoy. And that's because I grew up doing that. I don't know if the current generation, the kids today, if you want to put it that way, I think it appeals to them in kind of a retro way, because it is less convenient, and it is, it's not as easy as streaming. You can, punch it up on your phone and hook it up to your Bluetooth device or listen to it in your car. It's the ultimate inconvenience.
Yeah, you got to
But,
dedicate time for a record. You got to sit down like, I'm going to listen to side A and side B, like all the way through.
Yeah, and like I said, I grew up doing that, so that's something that I love and that I still love. And I never got, I never threw away my record players. In fact, I have a bunch of them, because when garage sales back in the 90s and stuff, people would be dumping that stuff, I just hoarded them. So I have like 5 or 6 really good turntables.
Smart man, because that stuff is so expensive now. Old analog equipment and receivers and turntables
good.
and stuff. Yeah, you got.
And a lot of the new stuff that comes out really isn't the best. It's okay, but yeah, you have to spend money for it to sound good, I think.
No,
but
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Oh no, you're fine, man. Go ahead.
I was going to say the thing with streaming, we kind of hesitated about putting our stuff up on there. From the beginning, it's taken us a while to get to the point where we felt comfortable with just putting it all out there for free, so to speak, and it took us a little while, but it's the way everybody listens to music now. So I think we were doing ourselves a disservice to not have our old stuff on there.
Yeah, I don't know. It is a necessary evil. I don't love Spotify either, but I've just realized that, any streaming service, that's always the biggest one, but like, yeah, it's like you kind of are damned if you do, damned if you don't. Cause it's like, I think a lot of people have that resistance, and then it's like, it's just not like, why bother with it? It's like, and I guess at the same time, it may help, get the songs out to people who, may not otherwise hear them, maybe get them out to a younger generation.
No, absolutely. That's the way they consume music. So if it's not there for them, then they don't have the opportunity to listen to it. And the beauty of it and the strange thing of it is that because everything is available now, people of the new generation of the young people today, they're listening to old music more than they ever could before. It's all available to them, whereas before you would have been stuck with the best of somebody or something. You wouldn't really be able to go out and listen to every album by every band, which you can now.
Oh, you're right about that. I've kind of, I feel like I saw the end of it. I'm 28, and like I still remember buying CDs and all that, but like then it kind of turning over to digital and like iTunes and all of that, and like there's a nest. It goes back and forth. There's good and bad, I feel like, of it, but I do think the good of it is the second I discover a band that I love, like say Dramarama, I'm like, oh, all of a sudden your entire catalog's at my fingertips. Like all of a sudden this band I'd never heard of, now here's all this information, here's what they put out. At the same time, I do think it's kind of sad though. Not sad, but like I am someone who still likes like that hunt for your music. Like I kind of like obscure bands that are still kind of hard to find their stuff. Maybe it's out of print and you have to go hunt for it. It's not the just throw their name in Google and you'll find everything. Like maybe they do have a 7-inch that like, was put out 30 years ago on an obscure label and you even can't find it online. Like, that there is something that is missed there that I think, and it sounds like you were probably into it too. You were talking about go to New York City and stuff earlier for like record stores and stuff, but that hunt of it, having really whatever record you want or whatever album you're looking for, you have to go find it now. Like if that record store doesn't have it, you have to go find one or find one to like special order it or something, that's definitely gone.
Well, that's, that's the shame of it, is that most record stores are gone, much less, them not being able to carry everything. There just wasn't the shelf space to hold every album by every band, even just like one artist, say Bob Dylan or the Rolling Stones, there wouldn't be enough room for them to carry every every different album that those artists would put out over a career that lasted 30, 40 years. They would have room for the newest album and maybe the best of, and maybe two or three other titles that were the most popular or something. But yeah, you couldn't even fit it all into the record store. So yeah, that's the beauty of it. And it's not just, music. I mean, I remember, seeking out things and trying to find, old performances from television shows. One that I always fall back on, there was a David Bowie special on a TV show called The Midnight Special in 1974, I think it was. It was called the 1980 Floor Show. And I remember paying $50 for a VHS bootleg copy that was really very poor quality. And yeah, so you'd go out and try to find things, and you'd have to seek it out, and they were hard to find, and you had to go underground and look for bootlegs and stuff. And now you can get it all on YouTube, high quality, high definition, perfect quality, and yeah, it's nice to have it all there at your fingertips.
It is, and it's the duality of, it's nice, and it's also nice for the hunt. But I know originally I wanted to ask you, for Cinema Verite, when that originally came out, I know it was originally on a French label, New Rose. Did that get released like over here in the States, or like kind of speaking what we're talking about? Like originally, did you have to kind of like special order that? Was that hard to find over here when it first came out?
It was an import for the first year and a half.
Oh, wow.
We put out our own 45 in 1982, and then we put out a 12-inch in 1984. But that album came out in France in 1985, and then we pressed it ourselves in 1986.
Oh, wow.
So for the first year or so that it was out, you could only get it as an import.
That's crazy. The other ones you're mentioning, like the 45 and stuff, those are just self-released?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
We just had our own little record company.
That's crazy, because back then, you guys had to be pretty young, right? That's your early 20s?
Yeah, but we started the band in the basement of a record store that the bass player owned. It was like a little mom and pop record shop, and we were selling, import singles and also, independent singles by bands, local bands or American bands, but just underground kind of thing.
Oh, that's cool.
And so that was part of the inspiration for us to put out our own.
That's really neat, because back then I feel like, again, we're going back to like pre-internet days and all that. It's like, you can't just Google how to like DIY release this yourself. Like, that's pretty cool to go and do all that yourselves and then put it out. But yeah, that must not have hurt having the record store side of that. I imagine then you already kind of have a little bit of like knowledge, I guess. Or
yeah, absolutely. And also back then, in the early 80s, that was still, there were a lot more pressing plants, and there were a lot more places to go get that done.
Was it fairly cheap to press your records, or was it expensive to do that back then?
Oh, much cheaper than it is now.
Oh, really?
At the time. Oh, yeah. No, a record, you'd go buy a vinyl album. When we were at the store, we were selling them for $6 or $7 a piece new, and that was retail. So you could buy them for $3 or $4, say, wholesale, and they probably cost a buck, to make a vinyl album.
Oh, that's not bad.
Now I think it costs like $5 or $6 maybe.
Oof.
Including the album covers and stuff.
It's like 5 times. Geez, that did get a lot more expensive. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, there's a lot less places making records. There's a lot less factories to get records made than there was. I think when they went away in the 90s, a lot of these places went out of business and shut down, and they just the stuff was left to rust or thrown away or whatever. I don't know. But there's a lot less pressing plants now. So now it's the opposite. When CDs first came out, they were more expensive than albums. You could buy an album for $8 and you could buy a CD for $20.
Jeez.
And now the opposite. It costs 5 times more to make an album than it does a CD.
You know what? But that, now that you say it, though, it does make sense, because I think about it, and now CDs cost more. If you're buying it from a band, like CDs, I feel like at this point, are like, sometimes you find them $5-10, and then vinyl's like 20-25. Like, there's a big price difference now that the tables have turned.
Yeah, no, it costs a lot more to make a record.
It's insane too. Yeah, I would imagine at some point they would have never thought those vinyl. And I never thought of that, but yeah, I mean, vinyl virtually, like you were talking about earlier, wasn't pressed for, I mean, decades. So yeah, who would have ever thought all of a sudden you get this demand? I mean, the few who were sitting the pressing plants had to be like they probably were not seeing that. It sounds like everyone must go through just a few. It sounds like, but
yeah, I think the only records that were still being made that never stopped being made were like 12-inch singles, like the disco or whatever, dance music. They still had, they were still making those, but for the most part, pop music stopped being made on vinyl.
That's interesting. I wanted to go back to covers for just a second. Like I said, you've done tons of them. Have you ever had any artists like reach out and said they've heard any of the versions that you've covered throughout the years?
No, I can't think that I have. I don't know that I've ever really spoken to any of them regarding that. No, I don't think so.
No, I was just wondering next. Yeah, you have tons of them.
You know what? I take that back. A guy who I hadn't known when we recorded a version of the New York Dolls' Private World. He became a friend. His name is Sylvain. He recently passed away, but he became a friend, and he ended up playing on our album Hi-Fi Sci-Fi and joining us on stage. So yeah, I knew he heard it, and we actually played it together in concert. So there you go. Thanks for reminding me.
I had forgotten that, but I'm not even kidding. My actually next question here was because we lost him earlier this year, and I know you've played with him. I was going to ask how you guys met Sylvain and how that kind of all came about.
It was our drummer. His name was Clem Burke. He joined the band.
Oh, from Blondie.
Yeah. He was our drummer from like 1990 to 1994, or 1991 to 1994.
Wow.
And that's how we met Sylvain.
Now that's another one, Clem Burke. I mean, how'd you meet him? Like, you guys have worked with some amazing, like, even I forget that sometimes, like when I was writing the question, like, oh yeah, Clem Burke from Blondie played with them for like a good chunk of the 90s.
Yeah, he became our drummer. The drummer who played with us. He actually, our first album has like 5 drummers, including me. I think maybe 4, something like that.
Oh, but your drumming is on the first record too. You can hear it on the first record.
Yeah, I play on 2 or 3 of the songs.
Oh wow!
And then there's 3 other drummers, but the last one. The one who moved out to California with us in 1986. He was with us for 4 years, and then he left us in 1990, and we needed a drummer. And Clem, the DJ who actually started playing our record in Los Angeles, Rodney Bingenheimer,
legend.
He introduced us to Clem Burke.
Oh wow!
He made the suggestion. He's like, what? Yeah, he's like, why don't you use Clem Burke? And he knew Clem, and he got us in touch with him. And at first, it was that whole Wayne's World kind of "we're not worthy" kind of thing. But I think we were in awe of the idea of playing with him because he is an amazing drummer.
But was Blondie? Were they doing much during that, or were they broken up?
No, Blondie didn't play from like the early 80s till either the very late 90s or early 2000s.
Oh, I didn't realize they were broken up that long.
They were on hiatus for like 10 years, yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I knew they weren't together for a while. I didn't realize it was that long of a break. Plus, it's kind of cool because technically you can say you had a Ramone in your band.
Well, he was only a Ramone for a weekend.
I don't know. I still, according to Wikipedia, I think it counts.
He definitely played concerts, and there were shirts with Clem Ramone. The seal, the Ramone seal with Clem. That's probably a real rarity. If you could find one of those, that's probably very valuable.
Oh, I'd say that's probably worth a nice pretty penny right now. But I got a couple more questions here as we're closing up. Throughout Dramarama's catalog, I mean, when you look back, hindsight, were there any songs that you think you guys should have pushed as singles that you didn't? Are there any that like you think, man, we really should have tried to get that? Like that really should have been we should have tried making that a hit.
You know what? For me, it was never about hit records or about picking songs. It's like picking your favorite child. I love them all, and the first song that got us got us to move to California. It's called Anything Anything. It It's not like that was a single or that we picked that one. It was track 4 on side 1, and I guess if we had thought, this is a hit, we would have made it track 1 or something. Um, yeah, it's never been about picking hits or picking singles. I don't know how to do that. I usually leave that up to other people. Although I'll say, oh, I might have an opinion, and I might say this is a song that everyone should hear. But I really am pretty proud of the majority of the body of work. And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't have. Yeah, I have very few regrets. Musically, I have regrets personally, but not musically. I don't. It's not like, oh, we should have done this or should have done that.
Yeah.
There's decisions that I've made that affected what happened, but not necessarily musically or those kind of choices.
As things open back up, shows are coming back and everything. Like plans, you guys planning on touring on color TV or playing shows? What's kind of like coming up for Dramarama as things are kind of, you're able to maybe properly promote this a little more than you could have when it came out last year.
Yeah, unfortunately, last year got canceled, and that would have been the time to do it. At this point, I think there's a backlog of people, wanting to get back out on the road and people wanting to put their music out. So I think, the competition's going to be kind of fierce. We'll go out and we'll play wherever we can play and do whatever we can do. And yeah, we'll see. Some of the stuff we had planned even for this year has already been put off until next year,
Oh, geez.
So we're scrambling, trying to get things done and trying to get things going. But we'll see what happens. By the time we're able to get back to it, it might be time to make another record, and hopefully it won't take another 15 years.
I don't think people would be mad if you put another one out. I mean, is that also the reason then why? I mean, because it came out digitally, right? But not has it gotten CD yet, or is it just vinyl and digital right now?
No, it was available on CD and soon after the digital release. I think it took a little while afterwards, maybe a month or something, and that was because of COVID. And then the vinyl thing, I think, like I said, it's really hard to get music pressed. Like we're trying to get more pressed because we're almost sold out on the first run.
Oh, that's great. That's great news.
But the pressing plant that did it is booked till January, so I don't know. Yeah, no, and that's 6 months ahead. So it took a really long time for this. We were hoping to have it a lot sooner than we finally got it back. So it wasn't a calculated thing that we'll put the vinyl out a year after the release. It's just the way things went.
And, as we're closing out here, too, I did want to ask, like I mentioned, Dramarama, all the stuff is up now for streaming. And so is your solo record. And I mean, I know you put that out back in like the 90s. I know you put a solo record out in years, but was that something you would consider doing again? I mean, have you ever thought of doing more solo stuff? Could you see that happening more down the line at all?
Yeah, well, we got the band back together in 2003. We were involved with this VH1 television show called Reuniting the Bands, and it was a program where they pretty much ambushed you and said, "Hey, you want to get back together with your band?" and we said, "Sure." I had no qualms about doing that, and so since then. It's been about the band, and if at some point it wasn't about the band, then yeah, I would do it. The beauty of the first solo album was after being in the band, I got to play. I got to play drums. I got to play guitar. I got to, some of the songs I got to play all the instruments myself.
Oh wow!
I don't know that if the recording suffered as a result, there's a reason why there's two guitar players in my band and I'm not one of them. I'm not the best guitar player. I'm not the best drummer, and I'm it's nice to have other guys that do it a lot better than I do. And I really do like playing with my band, and we're like a little team, and we're lucky to still be doing it together. The three of us, since like I said, the three of us graduated same year, class of '79 in Wayne Hills, New Jersey, and the bass player and drummer have been playing with me since the '90s, and it's a well-oiled machine at this point, and we all like each other. And aside from being able to play together, it's a lot about being able to drive in a van together too. We all get along real well, and it's a team effort.
That's a huge part of it. I mean, yes, making music's obviously like a big part, but you also got to like each other. I mean, that is really a big part. So that is a feat that I think a lot of bands can't make. Again, it's amazing how long you guys have kept the lineup and everything. And that definitely, I think, says something about you guys, which y'all must be pretty easy to work together with, and everything that it's lasted that long. But
and I mean, we got the band together. The band started out as a vehicle for my songwriting, so to speak, and it still is that. So I have, I don't really have any need to, I have to do my own thing, man, because Dramarama is my own thing, even though I share the credit and gladly share the burden of putting it together with the guys in the band.
Now, do you play drums still at all?
I haven't that much, actually. I think about it every once in a while that it would. I'm real rusty. I still play guitar, and actually I get to play guitar on stage, play some acoustic, but yeah, no, I'm way out of shape on the drums.
No, I was wondering that. I didn't realize. I knew you played drums a little bit early on, but I didn't realize you played them on your solo record, or that you played like all the instruments. That's amazing. Which again, if people
if you listen to the album, you can tell which ones are me on drums for sure. I mean, Clem's on there, and
Clem played on it too.
Yeah, Clem's on a couple of tracks, and Tony, the drummer in my band now, he's on a couple of songs. But yeah, you can tell which ones are me. It's kind of sloppy, but it does the job.
Well, people, I mean, if they have missed that solo record, they can now go stream it. And so I mean, we're closing this out now. This has been a lot of fun. If you want to tell people now, I mean, where can they grab the new album? Where can they grab the vinyl? Where can they find you online? Like, if you want to tell people all that good stuff, basically, where to go grab all this.
Well, it's as you say, it's available on all popular streaming platforms, whether it's Apple Music or Amazon, Spotify.
I think it's how it's on Tidal.
I think so. I think it's everywhere, all your favorite streaming platforms. And as far as the vinyl goes, you can get that direct from the band. We have a website called DramaraMaStore.com, and that's just basically we sell our vinyl album, we sell our new CD, have a couple other odds and ends, but and that's mostly just it's just music. We don't have merchandise really for sale. We try not to. I think it's asking enough for people to buy music or buy a ticket to our shows. I don't want to gouge them on souvenirs and tchotchkes and things. But so yeah, DramaraMaStore.com to pick up the hard copies if that's what you want. And otherwise anywhere you like to listen to music, YouTube, you name it.
I would grab probably that vinyl too, because like you just said, like January of next year for repressing. So I would probably go grab, if you're a record collector, I would go grab those before you run out and have to wait until whenever they can press more records.
Yes, by all means, please do.
But do that, support the band, and we're gonna play a couple songs off the new record right now. I'm loving it. We're gonna play great album opener, so we'll start with that. We're gonna play Beneath the Zenith right here on the Power Chord Hour. right here on the Power Chord Hour podcast. You know, the original by Bob Dylan is great, but I got to be completely honest, that version I think is even better than the original. Right here, that was Dramarama with Abandoned Love. Before that was What's Your Sign? Before that was Every Day, and opening up that block of music was Beneath the Zenith. All three of those and that cover are all on the brand new Dramarama record, Color TV. Go check that out. It is on CD. It is streaming everywhere now, along with all of Dramarama's back catalog, like we were talking about, as well as John Easdale's solo record from like 1998. So yeah, I mean, like if you're like new to the band, and I mean, you know, they've been around forever, but really Lucky Boys Confusion, a great band, another underrated band, did a cover of Anything. And that's how I discovered them. But I thought it was Lucky Boys Confusion, their original song, for like 2 or 3 years. And then I think one day on like VH1 Classic, Anything, the music video was on there. And all of a sudden I'm like, holy shit, like that's not Lucky Boys Confusion. This is a band, you know, Dramarama. And, you know, I discovered them from there. And I think as time has went on, you know, I mean, initially I liked what I heard, but I don't think I went that far into their catalog. And then later on, you know, kind of went further than just like the greatest hits. And I mean, really an underrated band, and insanely, like, I love Dramarama, and they've had success. Like, Dramarama's not a super tiny band. I mean, they've had bona fide hits, and you know, like they've had their success and everything. But I think they're another one of those bands where, yes, they've gotten recognition to a degree, but I think not regarded enough. You know, I think they're a band who really was, I mean, doing some amazing things in the 80s and 90s, and now still. And, you know, also writing, you know, another band where it's like, they're not rehashing their old stuff, but because you don't see a lot of bands that sound like them these days, it's like they're kind of doing something unique. You know, I mean, the new record sounds like classic Dramarama, but it's kind of like the last X record. Like, Alphabet Land is amazing. I think one of the things, which I guess to be fair, and kind of the same with Dramarama, but like with X, there's no bands that ever really sounded like X. So it's not to say there were tons of bands back in the 80s that sounded like them, but it's like, now, you know, that like Billy Zoom's rock and roll guitar and everything like that, like Chuck Berry, like influenced guitar playing and stuff, like you don't hear it as much anymore. So when you hear things like that, I feel like it's even more refreshing now because you're not getting overkilled with it. And kind of the same thing with the new Dramarama record. It's like I don't think you know, they went in and wrote some amazing songs, but they you know, they didn't try to reinvent the wheel with this one. They wrote a classic Dramarama record, and you know, it's just absolutely great. You know, it's great to hear, and like I said, it's kind of a breath of fresh air too, because you don't really hear bands doing this anymore. And again, too, I mean, shout out to them. The fact that 3/5 of that band is all original members. I mean, for being around that long, going back to X, I mean, X is you know, all original members. They've had a few come and go. You know, like with Billy Zoom and stuff. There's been times when really only Billy's the only one who's ever left, I believe. The Bone Break and Exene and John have been in the whole time, but, you know, like same with X, like, or now I keep talking about X, Dramarama, just two great, amazing, underrated bands from the 80s who, you know, maybe got recognition of not as much as they should have, but, you know, just same thing again, where it's like you're not hearing music like this anymore, so it's really rad when you hear it and when it's done really well. So whether you want to stream it, whether you want the CD or you want the vinyl, go pick that up. Go to Dramarama store. I mean, go support them directly from the band. Like, I mean, you know, go stream them and stuff too. But, you know, if you really want the best way to support them, because they're not on Bandcamp, you know, go through their store, because you're going right through them. Like, the money's going directly to the band. So DramaraMaStore.com, go check that out. And they're on social media and everything, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Go follow them and everything. And just a great band. That was really fun to talk to John, you know, absolute legend. I would have loved to, you know, there's so many other things to talk about, but, you know, he's had such a long career, but like, I would have loved to talk more about like Clem Burke and Sylvain and some of the other people who they've worked with throughout the years. Cause they really have, they've had some amazing people who they've gone to play with and have played with them, and, you know, just amazing band, really, really cool. But that is the episode for this week. Hope you enjoyed my interview with John Easdale of Dramarama. And check back in next week. We will have another new one for you. Stay connected with the show online. We are at Power Chord Hour on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook. Spotify, obviously, maybe you're listening to this there right now. You can go listen to you know, all past podcast episodes there. And we put up playlists from the radio show every week. So, like, you know, on here I just played 4 Dramarama songs. But since we do the radio show, it's 2 hours. I'm going to play a shit ton of Dramarama this week. And, there'll be a nice block of that. So, whenever you're listening to this, it may already be up. But, there'll be a playlist from every week's radio show. And this week, it's going to be lots and lots of Dramarama. I haven't made the playlist yet because I'm recording this literally after I just finished talking to him. So, I still got to make the playlist and everything. But I'm thinking it's going to be an all Dramarama set. So, I'm thinking if you've listened this far and you're a fan of them, you might enjoy this week's Spotify playlist. So check that out. Just search Power Chord Hour on Spotify. And, what else? Radio show, obviously, Friday nights, 10 Eastern to midnight on 107.9 WRFA right here in good old Jamestown, New York. But if you're listening, you're going, dude, I don't live there. How do I listen to this radio show? It's all I've ever wanted in life. Go check it out, WRFALP.com. And you'll see the big old streaming button there, and you can stream the station from anywhere. And also a WRFA mobile app. Just go search WRFA in the Apple App Store. And Apple App Store sounds weird. That's why everyone just calls it App Store. And I've never heard anyone call it Apple App Store because you sound like an asshole when you say it. So I'm gonna quit saying that. But go check that out in the App Store and check out all the other rad programs on WRFA. It's very rad that they've let the Power Chord Hour be on there for the last 5 years, and also let me use the studio for the podcast and everything, and also gave me a paid internship as a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed high schooler back in like 2009. So, lots of reasons to go support WRFA. But support WRFA, support Dramarama, and if you got any love left in your heart, just even a sliver, show the Power Chord Hour some love. Go follow us in all those places I mentioned, and also rate and review and subscribe to the podcast if you would. And that's going to be it. I'm going to stop promoting my bullshit. I know you're here for John Easdale because he rules, and so does Dramarama. So I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go listen to some Dramarama. Seriously, go listen to Color TV if you haven't heard it yet. Another band who, well worth the long time. You may have waited a long time for another record, but the whole record's good front to back. So it's like I'd rather that than 3 or 4 mediocre records with 5 good songs maybe on each one for like a decade. I would much rather a band take their time and put out something really good, and that's what Dramarama did on this one. But like I mentioned, check back in next week. We'll have a new one for you. I believe it may be solo. I believe next week I'll be doing best albums of 2020 so far, or 2021. God damn, I forgot what year it was. 2021 so far, since we are at the halfway mark. I can't believe that, but we are. So it's kind of time to go through a few records that I'm really loving this year. So that'll either be next week or the following. If it's not next week, that means we have a guest. But either way, we got a new one for you, so check back in. Until then, for the Power Chord Hour podcast, I'm Anthony Merchant. Thank you so much for listening.